This is a rendition of George Rodrigue, a contemporary artist I was not aware of and I'm excited to have learned about. The original was called A Faster Breed, and Al called it Blue Dog Hog. It reminds me of pop art and a little bit of caricature. Maybe Al has looked at some Peter Max work. The primary colors are really pop in the work. You know, the blue, red, and yellow, and the green blends in nicely. And who doesn't love a dog with sunglasses? Here's our first Vincent van Gogh. I'm pronouncing this the Dutch way. It's called Café Terrace at Night, 1888, 2 years before he died. There is two sources of illumination in this work, the sky and the artificial light from the cafe. And the artificial light makes really this yellow really acrid, and it stands out at us. Also, he used a lot of primary colors, bold colors, you know, the red and the blue. And it's a richly colored piece. Vincent felt, and I have to read this, Vincent felt that sensations in the night felt more alive to him than, and more richly colored than during the day. So that's one reason he chose this, to paint this scene. Here's our second Van Gogh. It's a pair of old shoes of 1886. I think they were his shoes, which he wore until they probably fell apart. Maybe these are holes. And what do I see? An adorable mouse in one of the shoes looking for her cheese. The artist was wondering why the blue striations were next to the shoes. I am not certain, but maybe just as a contrast to the more solid color in the shoes. And some scholars think that the shoes are really an analogy. They're seen as Vincent's difficult passage through life. Here's another Van Gogh. Vincent is so popular. Bill chose this very popular Starry Night image, and I was just told it's adapted to Hendersonville. Me being from Hilton Head, I did not realize that right away. Allow me to read a few lines. There was some very recent research just published 2 weeks ago in the New York Times that is really, we thank Vincent's daughter, Vincent's sister-in-law. We have to thank her that we are even familiar with Vincent's work, because she read all his letters sent to Theo, and she then marketed his work tirelessly for 10 years. As a woman without an art education, that was a heroic feat. And Vincent had been looking at the night sky in Arles, in the south of France, and he saw the stars sparkling like gemstones, emeralds, lapis, sapphires. He was also reading Walt Whitman, who was very popular in France then, and Whitman the poet, interpreted the great starry firmament with God and eternity. Now, Vincent had a pretty strong faith. He at some point wanted to enter the convent. So all this comes into this composition, the stars, the firmament. And he said himself, many people, including his brother Theo, found the work disturbing at the time. You know, nobody had painted like this. And even Vincent said, it's an exaggeration. It's a departure into a much more subjective style of painting. And here's our third Vincent van Gogh. It is a depiction of the smoker, 1888, and Vincent's piece is oil on canvas, of course. And it's again in Arles, in the south of France, and he wants to show us a farm worker. And he shows him in his modest coat, just done in very brown, simple brush strokes, the blue hat, and his red ruddy cheeks express that he's working outdoors. And I think the artist introduced a wandering eye, which is very creative. It's much abstracted, the picture, but it shows the significant details. Like, for example, as you can see, the pipe. In the original, actually, he clenches his mouth somewhat on the side where he holds the pipe. Here's our final Vincent, and it's about the olive trees painted in 1889. Now the artist, Nancy, this is a wonderful, joyful collage. It does have some twirly lines, but it's a piece on its own. It's a rightful, beautiful piece on its own. In the original, this has this painting of these olive trees. He did many of those. He did 15 paintings of olive trees. And this is actually described as the day piece, where the Starry Night is the night piece. And he also describes it as an exaggeration, where his subjectivity in style went away with him. And it was a blazing hot day, so the air tends to flimmer sometimes. Remember driving on a road and you may see a mirage, just like that's the impression Vincent had. And he's showing the undulating soil and the gnarly, twisty trees. So this one and the other one are departures from his more recognizable style. They're becoming more subjective.
Okay.
Now we're moving on to Johannes Vermeer. He was one of the most well-known painters in the Dutch Golden Age in the 1600s. And here's the so well-known and famous work, Girl with a Pearl Earring. What do I see? I see a lovely pail instead of the pearl. What a nice touch. The painting is just fantastic. It's Lois rendered the dark background, and she caught very well wherever the light reflects in the girl's eyes, on the girl's lips. And in the original, it reflects on the pearl earring, not in the pail. She beautifully depicts this silken headdress. It's sumptuous and it's just falling down naturally. And her precious dress, probably of some fine fabric. The young woman was said to be maybe a maid, even a kitchen maid. So this was her, also her beautiful light skin. She has a classical beauty. This was her way to shine and become famous. Just an excellent rendition of the original. Well done. Last but not least, Edouard Vuillard, and I'm happy to see one of his works because one does not often see. He's a representative of the group the Nabis, who called themselves the Prophets, and they were definitely post-impressionists. This is a challenging work Miriam picked. It's a lot of rectangles, flowers, and the vase is the only rounds. They are reflected in the mirror, and the mirror also reflects a window, which in turn shows us the garden outside. So it's a very clever composition. The original has a deeper yellow and more of a lilac than blue. But this is Miriam's favorite palette, so that's lovely done. And I must say bravo to choose a work that is not so often depicted and transcribed. Well, I'm almost sad that we have come to an end. This is really a beautiful exhibition, and it will highlight the Center for Arts and Entertainment in Hendersonville. There's lots of creativity in this town. We watched the bear unveiling yesterday. I am pleasantly exhilarated that there's so many artists up here. And again, I enjoyed learning about all the work, and I am thrilled to see the individual creativity in all the works, and some of the contemporary additions are just amusing and very, very creative. Thank you so much for having me up here. It's been an honor.